He's incompetent and doesn't belong in our company. There's no C for incompetence here. You're fired.
When I arrived at the venue where the company orientation was being held, I found a metal chair thrown at the entrance, and my son, Mark, standing there bewildered. What in the world happened? I asked my son Mark about the situation. Apparently, the department head, James, had thrown Mark's chair and told him to stand outside? On such a celebrated first day at work, how could he do such a thing? His mother, Michelle, came out from the venue. She had come looking because her son wasn't inside.
What are you doing? Why is my son the only one being thrown out of the venue?
Furious, I grabbed James by the collar. My son is incompetent. You decide that before he even starts working. You're the one who should be handing in your resignation.
Wait a minute. Did you say my son?
Here, I revealed another role of mine, besides being Mark's father. My name is George Smith. I'm a 50-year-old employee at Smith Trade, a major trading company. The presidency of Smith Trade is a legacy passed from my grandfather to my father, and then to me. From the moment I was born, it was my destiny to become the president of Smith Trade. I am well aware that I am in a privileged position, as seen by others. However, not being able to choose my own path has sometimes been difficult for me. When I was in the first grade, my dream was to become a carpenter, to work up a sweat with a muscular body, perform physical labor, build wonderful homes, and be thanked by people. It was a gratifying job. But soon, I realized that it was futile to have such dreams, as my future was already decided to take over Smith Trade. Even if I wanted to be a race car driver or aspired to be an astronaut, there was no hope for those dreams. In elementary and middle school, my classmates kind of saw me as someone special.
George is going to be the president someday. That must be nice. It's so easy for him.
Easy? Being the president is easy.
All you have to do is give orders, and it's the employees who do the work. You just sit in a big chair and do nothing. There's no easier job than that.
My classmate didn't mean any harm by it. As kids, we didn't really understand what a president does. Some might think I must have been popular with the girls. It's not that I wasn't, but I was quite shy, and during my elementary years, I struggled to respond properly. From the upper grades of elementary school, girls began confessing to me, but I would just laugh it off. It was not until the first year of middle school that I fell for a girl. She was a cheerful girl in the same group, and when I confessed, we soon had a mutual love. We would chat about trivial things on the way to and from school, and I remember having a great time. By the time I reached the 9th grade, I faced something for the first time. Her parents got transferred, and she moved to a different school. I wanted to be with her, but there was nothing we could do, and our relationship naturally faded. Through high school and university, the path ahead of me always included the company Smith Trade. Perhaps it was the folly of youth, but at one point, I wanted to defy my fate, and, against my family's wishes, I took a job at an advertising agency in a completely different field. I ended up working there for 10 years. When my father started saying, "It's time to come back," I fell in love with Michelle Brown, a college student who had come for an internship. Michelle was a smart woman, but very young. I should have taken the lead, but being shy, I always let her take the initiative. Eventually, Michelle confessed that she was pregnant, and for a moment, my mind went blank. It wasn't that I didn't want to become a father, but because it would greatly disrupt Michelle's life plans. Michelle was a woman with no desire to marry, believing that if she could dedicate her life to her work, she would prefer to remain single. I expected her to panic about the pregnancy, but she continued working, took a short maternity leave, and gave birth to a boy, whom we named Mark. A family meeting was called, and I expressed my desire to marry Michelle, but neither my father nor my grandfather would listen. I declared that I would cut ties with my family to be with Michelle, but then she came to our house and announced that she would pursue her own path.
I have no intention of joining the Smith family. I will continue to pursue my dreams and live with my son.
It will be challenging to advance your career as a single mother. Won't you let us raise Mark?
I absolutely refuse. If you take Mark away, I'll cut ties with George. I will continue to interact with him, so please don't talk about taking over Mark upbringing.
Faced with Michelle's firm stance, my mother had no choice but to retract her opinion. For my father and mother, he was their first grandchild, and being a boy, they had various expectations. However, since I couldn't marry Michelle, the only option I had was to be Mark's parent from afar. Michelle joined the advertising agency and began building her career. I married Kate, the partner chosen by my grandfather. Kate was not particularly beautiful, but she had an honest nature and was a comforting presence to be around. I didn't feel the passion I had with Michelle, but I convinced myself that this was what marriage was about, not romance. Mark grew up healthy and well. Since Kate and I didn't have children, I believe my grandfather, father, and mother secretly wished to see Mark. However, out of consideration for Kate, I was the only one who interacted with Mark as the uncle who gets along with his mom. What Michelle and Kate really thought about this situation, I couldn't tell. The fact that I had greatly changed the destinies of these two women was something I had to firmly accept. I kept telling myself to make the best decisions at each moment and chose my path accordingly. Eventually, Mark graduated from university and submitted his resume to Smith Trade. According to Michelle, she didn't remember providing any particular guidance on his career path as a mother. I truly felt the workings of fate. Mark was an impeccable student. His academic performance was excellent. He was active in volunteer activities, and I heard he spoke clearly and confidently in interviews. Although I had not revealed Mark's background to anyone, I was confident that he would certainly secure a job offer. But then, an unexpected figure stood in the way. James Wilson, the HR department head at the headquarters, ultimately opposed Mark's acceptance of the final job offer. James joined the company at the same time as me, but he didn't know that I was the next president. As a child, being known only as the president's son and constantly being in the spotlight without recognition for my real abilities was frustrating. So when I joined the company at 32, I used my mother's maiden name Murphy, not Smith. Naturally, James didn't know that Mark was the son of the future president. Since Mark's last name was Brown and mine was Murphy, no one knew we were father and son. Therefore, it would never occur to him that Mark could be a potential heir to Smith Trade. If, by any chance, James had secretly become aware of my background, he wouldn't want to oppose the future president and would simply agree with Mark's job offer without argument. Observing James calmly, I saw him as nothing more than a colleague from the same entry year, without any animosity. So, why would he oppose Mark's entry into the company so much? The next thing I considered was whether Mark had had some past involvement with James. Mark attended the top high school in the state and entered a prestigious national university. I knew he was dedicated to club activities and volunteering during his 4 years there. It was possible that he had some contact with James through his school activities. After much hesitation, I contacted Michelle. It turned out to be a situation where we would meet alone for the first time in a long while, and I felt a mix of excitement and guilt. When Michelle arrived at the meeting place, she was dressed in an expensive suit, looking like a stylish career woman. Seeing her like that, I felt maybe it was for the best that I didn't force a marriage. I then asked if there had been any problems during Mark's university years, but Michelle didn't have any particular recollection.
It's okay not to force a job offer. The company isn't just Smith Trade. Experiencing setbacks early in life can be good for the future in the long run.
No, I want Mark not as my son, but as a new employee. I won't give him any special treatment, so rest assured. With this, I strongly advise my father, the president, and Mark joined our company. On his first day of work, I opened the window to find the sky clear and a pleasant breeze blowing in. The thought of Mark finally becoming a working adult was deeply moving. Michelle also participated in the orientation because bringing a partner or family was possible. This day was also special for me personally. After having breakfast prepared by my wife, Kate, I headed to the venue in a hired car. There, I encountered an unbelievable scene. The stage was set in a small auditorium next to the main office building, where the new employees were sitting on folding chairs with nervous expressions. I tried to sneak a peek at Mark from the back entrance for staff. Then I noticed that one of the chairs where the new employees were lined up was conspicuously empty. Furthermore, Mark was nowhere to be seen among the seated new employees. A bad feeling led me to rush to the door where the new employees had entered. What happened next was unimaginable. A folding chair was discarded in front of the entrance, and there stood Mark, looking bewildered. James was standing beside him, arms crossed and looking down at him. I hurried over to Mark's side. What happened? All the other new employees are sitting inside the auditorium. Mark noticed me and uttered a small sound, but immediately looked down. What are you doing? James looked at me and clicked his tongue.
This guy is incompetent and doesn't belong in our company. There's no seat for incompetence here. You're fired.
What in the world happened? I asked Mark about the situation. Apparently, James, the department head, had thrown Mark's chair out and told him to stand outside. On such a celebrated first day at work, how could he do such a thing? Michelle, his mother, came out from the venue. She seemed to have come looking because her son wasn't inside. Michelle hurried over when she saw Mark and James standing facing each other.
What are you doing? Why is my son the only one being kicked out of the venue?
Mark looked at his mother with a troubled expression. Having his parents witness such a situation on what should have been a proud day must have hurt his pride. I was so furious I might have exploded. I grabbed James by the collar. My son is incompetent. You decide that before he's even started working. You should be the one handing in your resignation.
What do you mean, my son?
Mark Brown is my son. Did you oppose his hiring because you knew about the relationship between me and Mark? James looked bewildered and shook his head, saying, I didn't know. I almost raised my hand in disbelief, but Michelle grabbed it, stopping me from going any further.
George, stop. Mark is watching.
Aren't you angry? What makes Mark incompetent? It's as if you and I have been insulted as his parents.
I understand how you feel, but this is not the time to be angry. Today is supposed to be a big day for you too.
Michelle might not have been calm, but she was well aware of the situation and hadn't forgotten what needed to be done. She was far more mature than I. There's no way Mark, whom Michelle raised, could be incompetent. I needed to calm down, and I took several deep breaths. At Michelle's, "Are you calm now?" I quietly nodded. I had to convey accurate information to James anyway. Doing so would be the best strategy to deal with him. I couldn't understand why James was slandering Mark as incompetent, but it was better to make clear our relationship first. Mark is my precious son. Our different last names may have hidden the truth, but we are indeed father and son.
Why do you have different last names? Is there a reason you didn't marry?
I wanted to marry. I love Michelle, and as a result, Mark was born. That fact hasn't changed, and my feelings at the time were genuine. But I didn't marry because of my family's opposition and to protect Michelle's career. Informed of the truth, James stood there stunned. Mark, looking bewildered, asked in a trembling voice, "Is Uncle George my dad?" To reassure Mark, I made an effort to smile gently and answered, "Yes, I am." Michelle listened, nodding slightly to my words, then spoke soothingly to Mark.
You might be confused now. I'll explain everything later, so go get your chair and return to your seat.
Mark nodded in understanding, bowed to me, picked up his folding chair, and started heading back inside the auditorium. Here, I revealed another role I held besides being Mark's father. As of today, I am taking over as the president of this company. I need to make a speech for the new employees soon. Mark, you're also an employee of this company from today. Let's do our best.
I didn't expect it to be known this way. He's always been there for you. He's a great dad.
Then Mark, with a look of concern, tentatively spoke to me.
Dad, you're the president of this company. Really? Does that mean I got in through connections?
Not at all. You were hired on your own merits. Go and join the orientation with confidence. Michelle patted Mark's shoulder. Mark nodded firmly, and this time ran back into the auditorium. Glancing at a still dazed James, Michelle and I returned to our seats. As I sat down in the chair prepared at the venue, an announcement came on, and the orientation began. The orientation proceeded solemnly, and I went up to the stage to give the president's address. As the new president, I conveyed words of celebration and gratitude to the new employees, and at the end, I exchanged smiles with Mark. Mark looked serious, his lips tightly sealed, but he nodded several times in response to my words. After the successful completion of the orientation, I invited Michelle and Mark to have dinner together for the first time in a while. Michelle looked at me with hesitation.
Mark is one thing, but is it okay for me to have dinner with you? Won't Kate feel bad?
Kate is well aware of our relationship, and she knows that today was Mark's orientation. Since the three of us are together, having a meal should be allowed.
I'd like to have dinner with Dad too. There were so many surprises today. I want to talk things through with both my parents and sort out my feelings.
To reassure Michelle, I called Kate and informed her that the three of us would be having dinner together. Kate responded in her usual calm voice. Please enjoy your time. We decided to celebrate Mark's hiring and my appointment as president at my favorite restaurant. In a room with a view of a beautiful garden, the three of us toasted. Mark was old enough to drink but didn't seem inclined. What's the matter? I ordered the best food and drink. Didn't it suit your taste?
No, just thinking about going to a company every day where that James Wilson is, I feel anxious about whether I can work well.
Indeed, James seems to have it out for you. Actually, he was the only one who opposed your hiring at the final decision. Did you do anything to upset him? Or do you have any idea why? Hearing my words, Michelle's expression changed. It seemed she knew something, so I prompted her to talk. Did Michelle and Mark meet James for the first time?
I met him during the interview for the first time.
What about you, Michelle? You've never seen James, right? Suddenly, Michelle began to panic and started to explain. Actually, after we broke up, she was introduced to James by a meddlesome neighbor lady for a matchmaking meeting. James and I were hired at the same time and had drunk together several times, but he seemed to have no interest in women. He was pot-bellied from a young age, and by the time he was almost 30, his head had considerably balded. So I mistakenly thought he had no interest in women or marriage. But that was just my assumption. I feel ashamed of myself for thinking that his appearance was one of the reasons why he couldn't get married. I went on 2 dates with him, but we didn't share the same values or preferences. Moreover, it seemed James didn't like the fact that Mark was still young, so I turned down the marriage proposal.
Actually, Mom was often set up for matchmaking when I was little. I always hoped Uncle George would be one of the matchmaking partners.
The story about Michelle and James surprised me. It turns out Michelle had rejected James, and perhaps he held a grudge about it, opposing Mark's job offer once he learned Mark was Michelle's son. Don't worry, I'll keep Mark and James apart. I'm watching, and if James tries anything with Mark, I'll fire him for sure.
Thank you. I'm really counting on you, George.
As the new president, I'll be busy, but I want to make sure Mark has a comfortable working environment. Mark pours me a drink with a smile. Having a drink with my son, a dream come true, made today the best day of my life. After parting with Mark and Michelle, I returned home by limousine. The porch light was on, but Kate didn't come to greet me as usual. I'm home, I called out as I entered the house. She might be out dining with her friends, since I told her I'd be having dinner with Mark and Michelle. Entering the living room nonchalantly, I found Kate sitting on the sofa in the dark. Startled, I hurriedly turned on the light. What are you doing sitting in the dark?
Did you enjoy your rare dinner out?
Well, yes. What's up? You've never asked like that before. As I took off my jacket and loosened my tie, Kate remained seated, not standing up. And then she dropped a bombshell.
Let's separate. Now that Mark works at the same company, you'll see Michelle more often. It's only a matter of time before she gets back into your heart.
What are you talking about? I never even married Michelle. True, Mark is adorable, and I am grateful to Michelle for raising such a straightforward son. But that's all.
Have you really been looking out for me? I appreciate the comfortable life you've provided, but you've been too busy to even care about me.
I felt like I'd been hit over the head, looking at Kate intently. Kate is my proud wife with her clean beauty. She does the housework perfectly and is always attentive to my parents and grandfather. I had no complaints about Kate, but that was my view. I had never considered whether Kate was satisfied with me. What had I been doing? Kate had married me knowing everything about Michelle and Mark. Why hadn't I shown her more gratitude and love? I had to stop her from leaving at all costs. Being faced with separation made me realize how much I loved her and did not want to lose her. Mark is important, and my memories with Michelle are good. But I've made it this far because Kate was with me. I can't think of going back to Michelle. I'm happy with Kate. I knelt before Kate, meeting her eye level, and held her hands firmly, trying to convey my feelings. Then Kate began to sob quietly, crying.
I've always been afraid of the invisible presence of Michelle, thinking she might come back for you one day. But I can trust you, right?
Of course. I love you, Kate. I'll make sure not to make you feel insecure anymore. Please forgive my past negligence. We held each other tightly and cried together for a long time. The incident at the orientation where James mistreated Mark soon came to the attention of my father and grandfather. After I explained everything, they were furious and demanded that James be fired immediately.
He's our only grandson. We were grateful he chose our company, but it might all end because of one man's actions. We must prevent that.
I want Mark to come to work smiling. That man James will interfere. Take measures before anything else happens.
Although I usually don't mention Mark to keep the peace for Kate, he is an irreplaceable grandson to them. Moreover, I learned facts about my relationship with Mark that I hadn't known before. My parents and grandfather had occasionally offered to help Michelle financially, but she declined every time, choosing to raise Mark without anyone's help. Understanding now that my parents and grandfather quickly changed their stance on marriage after seeing how adorable Mark was born, I'm stunned. But now, I have no regrets about marrying Kate instead of Michelle. It's only because of Kate's daily support that I've been able to push through all these years. I wonder if things would have worked out had I married Michelle, who continued to advance her career. Perhaps, due to our youth, we might have made mistakes and ended up parting ways. Everyone carries thoughts of what if I had done this back then? I'm no exception, often contemplating these alternate realities. Yet, such thoughts merely flicker through my mind, as I am content with my life now. It's time to stop dwelling on the past and start imagining the future. I truly hope to live out the rest of my life with Kate. Despite my father and grandfather telling me to fire James, I decided to give him a fair chance. I settled the matter with a stern warning from the president, urging him to focus on his work. However, James started making mistakes at work and, after being transferred to the accounting department, it was discovered he had been embezzling for some time. This time, there was no question about it. He was fired without discussion. James, who is single, had no family to support him. From such circumstances, he initially stayed home and drank heavily every day. However, some meddlesome person took him out, but unfortunately, they went out gambling. James became completely absorbed in gambling. He spent the day gambling and spent the night drinking. If he won, he celebrated with victory drinks. If he lost, he drowned his sorrows. Eventually, he accumulated debt and vanished without a trace. Rumors among the local housewives suggested he might have fled the state to escape his debt collectors, and over time, The memory of James as an employee faded away. Mark's progress has been remarkable. After his initial training, he was assigned to the accounting department. He steadily accumulated achievements and grew into a respectable professional. There's no greater happiness than watching his growth up close. I've always regretted not doing more father-like things for Mark. But seeing him thrive at work blows those regrets away. Michelle successfully finished raising Mark and is now living her life. She recently got promoted to manager and successfully led a major project. Recognized for her abilities, she's now being considered for a position at an overseas branch. Hearing that Michelle is thriving makes me genuinely happy. I'm doing extremely well. I work hard every day as the president. Lately, I've been spending more time with Kate. We go to movies and enjoy vacations together. Kate seems to smile more than before. That day we confronted each other's feelings helped us finally become a real couple. I want us to continue living happily together.